Hello, my friends, lovely violinists from all over the world. Welcome to the Pro Strings Violin School and this live class, Henriette Goes Live. It's lovely to see people already coming into the chat as we progress. So welcome, and it's lovely to see you all here. Today, you can ask me any questions, violin-related questions, that is, and you can write your questions in the chat box. I'm going to give a big shout out to Tom Bell because I think he might have just joined Henriette's Violin Club. And that gives me the opportunity to tell you about this new initiative. YouTube has recently put this a sort of sponsorship a sponsorship scheme on that may with the aim of sorry, I'm a bit distracted because Angie's just coming in. Hello, Angie, as well, and welcome and nice to see you. YouTube has recently launched this new sponsorship scheme with the aim of getting creators closer to the people who enjoy watching their videos. So in my case, it's very much a matter of me trying to reach out to you and to gaining more contact with you. And that is the whole aim of Henriette's Violin Club. So thank you to those of you. Enika, I think you're a member as well. So welcome. And it just allows me the opportunity to chat with you more frequently and to support you more precisely wherever I can. So for ordinary members, ordinary subscribers in my YouTube channel, not much is going to change at all. You're equally welcome. It's just that we're going to do some more of these live chat sessions for members, and also members get priority in when I answer comments below videos. You may have noticed that the comments below videos, people are using those comment sections more and more frequently, and I've been trying my very, very best to keep up with all of those. And sometimes it's just a bit too much to answer them all every day. I will still do that for members of Henriette's Violin Club, and others may have to just wait a little bit longer. So if you enjoy my answers to your questions, then by all means, please become a member and you'll be prioritized as well. And I will still aim to answer at least once a week all the other questions that come in. So lovely, a new initiative and something that we're just going to see how it works. So as usual, let me introduce how this works. This chat will stay on my channel, so even if you miss things or you want to review it, you can always log back into this video and watch it again at a later stage. So but for those of you who are here now, you can see on the right hand side of your screen you've got this chat box, and you can write your questions in there, and I'll do my very, very best to answer them in succession. I'll do my very best. Sometimes I'm a bit distracted because I'm here on my own at the moment trying to arrange everything. So feel free to write your questions, and to help you become familiar with how the chat box works, as always, I'm going to ask you to write in the chat box where you're from. Now, Wendy's already indicated that she's from New York. So hello, Wendy. Good to see you here. And maybe you can also write where you live, and in that way just practice your writing so that you don't feel inhibited or prevented from asking any questions. So Enika is from Serbia, and Wendy gives me a smiley face, so that's good. And then once you feel that you're comfortable asking the questions, Tom Bell is from Nova Scotia, Canada, and Nova Scotia is very, very special to me, and I'll tell you why that is. I have got a Nova Scotia duck-tolling retriever, so whilst I've never been to Nova Scotia, it rings a bell for me. Angie is here from the UK, so welcome. And Angie is a pupil of mine. She's a regular as well in these classes. So I have got a couple of questions that, apologies, I completely forgot to answer last time in my live session. So let me start. Tom says, come and visit. If I can, I would love to. Yes, I'm really, really looking forward to one day go there. So let me start by catching up with the questions that I forgot to answer last time. And somebody has asked me, do you use a humidifier for your home? And the next question is, if you do, is 45% okay? A 45% humidity of the air. I didn't know about this, so I've done a little bit of research into this. And over the years, I've taken my violin to many different climates, and violins are very adaptable things. So long as you have the golden rule that I always say, if you don't like the temperature or the humidity, then your violin probably doesn't. But apparently, a humidity level between 40 and 60% is fine for your violin. Getting too humid or too dry obviously isn't, and we would feel uncomfortable in a very, very humid climate or a very dry climate for that matter. And you can buy humidifiers and dehumidifiers as well. Some cases come with a standard hygrometer, it's called, an instrument that measures the humidity in your violin case. So the flashy cases have got one built in, so you can keep an eye on it. But then if you only have that, what are you going to do if it's too humid or too dry? There are also little devices which look almost like a strings tube. You remember these see-through plastic tubes, and they have got a certain substance inside them that work two ways. They humidify your environment when it's too dry, and they dehumidify when it's too moist, when the air is too moist. So I hope that answers your question, whoever asked me this before. So there is one more question, maybe there are two more. Somebody's asked me, this person has been playing for 2 weeks and their pinky keeps locking. Now, they don't say whether it's the right hand pinky or the left hand pinky, but I suspect it is the right hand pinky. And that happens sometimes. I get pupils here in my lessons where that happens. And it's just being not as well trained as you can be. Now, this person says after 2 weeks, so it's early days, isn't it? And what happens when you play the violin is the muscle here on the side of your hand becomes stronger. And when that becomes stronger, and that doesn't happen in 2 weeks, but give it 2 months maybe, by exercising like that, once that gets stronger, you'll feel probably that your pinky locks much less. Now, occasionally I've seen people with a locking left hand pinky. And what happens there is when that pinky locks, it's probably because you bend it from one of the knuckles here, the higher knuckles. And what I suggest you do there is to try and lower your pinky from the base knuckle, so this one here, and not from here. It is less likely that it will lock that way, you see? So I'm hoping if you're here, the person who asked that question, that answers your question. One more that I came across on my list of questions that I forgot to answer last time. Somebody is struggling with string crossings. Now, more of you in recent comments below videos have said, I find crossing strings so difficult. And that is a real thing on violin playing. If you're not careful enough with crossing strings, you're going to hit another few notes that you don't actually mean to play. So you want to play, say, on the D string, and by accident you can hear your G string sounding or your A string sounding as well. And that has something to do with the level of your right elbow. And your right elbow determines the level of the strings that you're playing on. Can you see when I lower my elbow? And this is actually, I'm not doing anything with my wrist. I'm just using my elbow. Look, if I lower my elbow, my bow moves to the E string. If I raise my elbow, my bow moves towards the G string. And it's getting these levels right, especially on the middle two strings, the D string and the A string, that will help you cross strings more easily. So you want to do this exercise for a bit, just to learn to feel. And you might even do them with your eyes closed like that, to learn to feel which string you're playing on. And after a while, that becomes second nature. You will feel where your D string is and where your A string is. And that way you will gradually, not overnight, but you'll find in 2 weeks' time or in 3 weeks' time, you might suddenly realize that actually you haven't heard the extra strings as much as before. So check out your string levels. And that is the same when people ask me, okay, I have a difficulty playing from this note G here to B, first note, first finger on the A string. Apologies, the sound in YouTube is not very good. So if this sounds horrendous to you, there's not much I can do about that other than buying super expensive equipment that my son has recommended to me. Eventually, who knows, we might have that, and then I will broadcast to you with a super quality sound, but at the moment we'll have to make do. Okay, so the question was, if you go from the second finger, or actually the question is when you go from the second finger F sharp on the D string to the B. Now, first of all, you've got to get your string levels right. So this is a bow issue. So you see, I go from the D string, second finger F sharp, to the A string, first finger on B. But there is also something else, and that is something the matter with my left hand. Now, I'm playing these two notes, F sharp, the second finger on the D string, and then followed by a B, first finger on the A string. Now, if I play on the F sharp, you can perhaps see that my elbow comes under the violin a bit more. And when I play on the B, my elbow goes out a little bit more. See that? So this will help you cross the strings more easily with your left hand if you get your elbow levels on the left side right as well. And it will help you go from the second finger on D to the first finger on the A string. Now, something striking that I come across is when I play on the G string and my fingers go further to the left here, so my elbow is further under, my right elbow is a little bit higher. Can you see that? Now I cross to the E string, look what happens. And that, when I first discovered this balance, I was quite astounded, but this is how it works, you see. Of course, I'm exaggerating now, and in real life violin playing, you don't make your movements as big as that. But this may well help your string crossings. So for that person, I hope this has answered your question. When I play on it, come easy. Okay, so a person, I can't remember who it is, but a person has asked, I have a problem with the D string. When I play on it, I can hear the G or the A. Is there any system that you can eliminate those sounds? That has hopefully answered your question. Now, I'm going to look in the chat box now and practice things for D string, not J. Oh, that's exactly the question, isn't it? So, Enika, I hope this has helped you there. Hello, Sao Paulo. That is really nice. I think you may have been here before, but I can't remember. I have got a pupil in Brazil, believe it or not. So someone whom I teach online, but I can't remember somebody having been here in this chat from Brazil. So really, really good to see you here. Anyone else? Have you got any more questions? Now everyone's thinking, quick, ask a question. Let me think of one. I'm trying to go. Oh yeah, I have got another question. Hang on a minute. Oh, this is a good one as well. Thank you for this question. Who was Mr. Krickbaum? Do you know more of him? Now, I think he was a Belgian person. I don't dare to guess when he was living. You'd have to Google that. But he is one of the important pedagogues from the Franco-Belgian School of Violin Playing. And you may have heard before that there are different schools in violin playing, different ways of using the technique to create a certain style of playing, which suits the composing of certain style of composers. So, for instance, we have got the Russian School of Violin Playing, and the Russian School of Violin Playing, they teach to play the violin to play the big Russian concertos. name a couple, Tchaikovsky, and so on. So the big, very often romantic composers who play with a lot of power. Then the Franco-Belgian school, of whom Mr. Crickbohm is one of the pedagogues, they have generally got a much more lyrical style of playing, a much more singing style, a lot more gentle, because the music of, for instance, I don't know if you have come across the Violin Sonata by Guillaume Lequeux, or by the French sonatas like Ravel and the French composers. They are generally a little bit less powerful with many chords and so on. It's more lyrical, it's more gentle playing. So the Franco-Belgian school of violin playing is more lyrical, is more in a singing style, to suit these pieces by the French and Belgian composers more. Then there is the American style of violin playing, which is almost a little bit in between, I would say. So they play with big chords, but also to a certain extent a rather lyrical line. So if you want to find out more about that, just Google it and you get far more in-depth information than I give you here. But since the question was about Mr. Crickbohm, that's why I approach it from this angle. I learned to play with the Franco-Belgian school. I grew up in the Netherlands, so I used to play in the Franco-Belgian style of playing, and that suited my instrument and that suited my character really, really well, because as you may have noticed, I'm not a flashy, showy-offy person, so that suits my style of playing. And I think, as you have rightly indicated many times, Ennika, in your comments, he's an absolute genius. He's really thought about how you teach somebody to play the violin. And that was in that time, let's say 19th century, roughly. I'm not going into any specific detail of years, but let's say that. That was quite unusual, because violin playing hadn't developed as far as we do now. We know everything about every single technique, and we know how to bring that across. So the pedagogy of violin playing has been improved dramatically, say not since the 1960s. But in the 19th century, that wasn't all that well developed, and Mr. Crickbohm was one of the people at the forefront of the big thinkers of how do you teach somebody to play the violin in a certain style. Tom, good question. General question. How long does it normally take to finish Suzuki Book 1? It took me 6 months, but I still go back and continue to refine my playing. That is a super good question. And I think that is very reasonable. And it's rather quick as well to do that in 6 months. Of course, it all depends on how thorough you learn it. I mean, the Suzuki method was originally made by Mr. Suzuki in Japan. And the idea was that you would repeat many things over and over and over again, just like children learn their mother tongue. It's also, the Suzuki method is also sometimes called the mother tongue method. So the idea originally from Mr. Suzuki was that parents with their children both learn at the same time, and you practice it every day, and you practice everything many times over. You may know that if you teach a child to speak, they would have a go and it would be half a word, like it would be understandable to other people, and parents would go, yay, my baby just said daddy, or something like that. Yes, there's a lot of praise, and the first word daddy that a child speaks is usually not very precisely recognized as daddy, but it might be dada or dada, and parents will say yeah, and then they encourage the child to do more of that. So similar with the Suzuki method, you start with the rudimentary form of your music, and then as you progress, it becomes more and more and more sophisticated. So I get a little bit horrified sometimes when people say, I finished the Suzuki book in 2 weeks, because I'm thinking you haven't studied it really thoroughly. Now, in the olden days in Japan, and maybe nowadays still in Japan. I taught a Japanese student a couple of years ago. They had to learn everything off by heart. So that means that you won't finish the Suzuki book in 2 weeks. So I think 6 months is very reasonable, and especially adults. Adults learn a lot more efficiently, obviously, than children do. But you want to stay with the same piece for so long that you nearly know it off by heart. And therefore, I really appreciate it when you say, I continue to refine my playing and I keep coming back to it. Because if you develop certain aspects of your playing and you go back to a piece which you have learned previously, you will find other aspects that you can then improve in your older pieces, something that you may not even have come across when you were first studying your older pieces, you see. But because you know more, you can also look more in depth about older material. I hope that answers your question. Angie asked me the question, are there any plans for you to cover Suzuki books 3 and 4? Yes, there are. But as you may know, I'm currently recording all for strings. And then one of my wishes, just something that I really want to do, is the Neil Mackay, A Tune for Introduction to the Third Position. So, and I think the next thing on my list is Suzuki book 3. I'll start with 3 and then we'll think about book 4 a bit later. I hope that answers your question there. Good, Tom. Good to hear that that's answered your question. So you will hear me say in my videos quite a lot, slow yourself down, learn very slowly, because the idea is that when you learn more slowly, you allow yourself time to develop. It's with that exercise of the muscle here at the side of your hand. You can't practice that for 2 days and then think, oh, I know it. This is not how violin playing works. I'm totally aware that this is how some of our lives are nowadays, aren't they? You press a button on a computer and your answer is here. Like I say to you, just Google it and you'll know the ins and outs of it. Violin playing is not like that. You need to develop slowly. You need to wait until your muscles have grown, and then you can practice it more in depth. And then as you do that, you'll discover more. And I would say for me personally, playing the violin has been a life of discovery. Okay, so it is not that you can do that instantly, but you start to approach it and then you think, oh, okay, I can develop this. And then you experiment a bit more and you can develop it a little bit more. So it is a slow process. And you just need to allow it time to develop. At what point do we learn vibrato? That is also a good question. And officially, from a methodological point of view of violin playing, officially you should learn to play vibrato after you've learned to play the third position. Because the way we learn vibrato is that you use that high position to learn it. So that would be beyond book 3, I would say. On the other hand, I'm teaching quite a few adults now who ask me in lesson 2 when they can learn to play with vibrato. So, but that is because adults have got a much more musical idea about how their pieces should sound. So I tend to teach vibrato much earlier in adults. So you can learn to play vibrato. There's actually a physical restriction. You know, when you first had your driving lessons and you sat there and your driving instructor would tell you to start the engine and you were squeezing that steering wheel. Everything is very tight when you first learn to play something, learn to play the violin, or when you learn to drive, or if I started to play basketball, I would be very tense and throw the ball into the hoop. But when you get more experienced, you will start to be more relaxed. And you can learn to play vibrato when your general level of relaxation on the violin allows the vibrato to emerge. So sometimes I start teaching vibrato to people and it doesn't come. It just won't work. And that means that they're just too tense as a general muscle tone in their left hand and left arm, and it just won't come. You have to be in a certain way. You have to have enough relaxation for the vibrato to emerge. So you can try it fairly early on and see if it works. And generally, people who have got naturally lower muscle tone would find playing vibrato easier at an earlier stage in their learning than people who are naturally very, very tense. You know, you've got these snake people who can put their legs in their necks, right, around that. It will be easier for a person like that with a naturally lower muscle tone than people who are a bit stiffer, like myself, or very stiff even. Okay, so it depends. There are vibrato learning videos on my channel. See if you can find them and follow the instructions there, and see if it comes. If it doesn't come, give it 3 months and then try it again and see if you find it easier then. Annika asked me, for position, you have to learn a lot. I'm not brave enough for it. Well, that is also got to do with confidence and with general relaxation, doesn't it, Annika? And it's good that you bring it up, actually, because this is an aspect of violin playing that a lot of people find very scary to do. So you're not alone, first of all. And it is good. And this is perhaps also why the violin club comes in. And if you hear from other people, oh, I'm just scared to go into the third position, and as someone else says, oh, me too, I really don't like it because it's high, isn't it? Then it makes you feel better, doesn't it? And this is how violin club can help you feel better about your playing. It will also encourage you to give it another go. And who knows, maybe that next go might be when you succeed and you find it a bit easier than how you found it yesterday. And then I come back to my same aspect of progressing very slowly, because it doesn't matter if today you can't do something, because if you try it tomorrow, you might succeed a bit more. And then in 3 weeks' time, you might suddenly think, I'm cracking it now. So you see, step by step is how you develop. So if you find going into the third position very scary, you might try this. Children like this exercise. Apologies, I'm going to make a horrible noise now. So just try this. You see? And once you feel comfortable, at first this will be very, very difficult because you won't be able to move so easily. But then on a good day, when you're a bit more relaxed and you suddenly move your left hand, you think, now I can learn the third position, you see? So let me see. Oh, Mr. Miller, hello, I'm from Thailand. What a nice comment. Thank you. I've seen your comments below videos, so it's really good to see you here. Thanks for showing up. If you've got any questions, you're a beginner, I see as well. Go ahead. Now is your time to ask. Oh, Angie, that is a very nice comment. Angie Ellis says, it does get much easier over time, Annika. Yeah, that is definitely the case. But it's that first step, isn't it? When you think, I've got to do something that is really scary. Like, for me, that would be bungee jumping, you see. I've never done any bungee jumping at all. And I'd be too scared to do it. Or parachuting or something, jumping from an airplane. It's that first go, isn't it? Once you've done it once, it becomes easier. Now, position changing and playing in the third position is a lot easier, I guess, than doing a bungee jump. So there is scary stuff and scary stuff, isn't it? Eneka says, I think I'm a violinist in the first position forever. Now, that brings me to an idea. I'm just going to make a note right now. At some point after my all for strings method is finished, I'll do a course on the third position for first position forever people. Shall I do that? That would be fun. Because I think if you try it once, you'll be absolutely fine. Hello, Linda. Good to see you here. You see, we've got a group of people here who are always here in these classes. So Linda's one of those people. Welcome and lovely to see you. You're a bit late, but we'll look forward to watching what I've missed later. Yes, it will stay on this channel, so you can always watch it. Now, I've got one more question. I don't think I've answered it. And when I was going through my last Henriette Goes Live questions that I'd missed, I just missed it again now. So the question was, is brown or red rosin considered dark rosin? Now, the answer is, I don't know. I would say I've got all my rosins out that I've got here. So you can see a variety in colours. The lightest rosin that I've got is this. Sorry, it's a bit chipped. And this is very light, very soft rosin. This is the cheapest rosin that I use for the youngest children. And this is a very dark rosin. What is this actually? I can't even read that. The AB rosin and fillable cover. Now, this is a much harder rosin. It's darker, it's harder. Generally, the darker the color, the harder the rosin. Generally, I'm talking generalizations today. Generally, the softer the rosin, the more suitable it is for warmer climates. So if you live in Scandinavia, you might go for the darker ones. If you live near the equator, the person from Brazil, tell me about it. Do you use lighter rosin or darker one? Now, this is a hill rosin, I think. So that is slightly darker than this one. Can you see that? Oh, actually, on the camera, it shows up just the other way around. This one is actually the darker one in my natural sunlight here. And then I use, this is also a question that people always ask me. Now, look at this. These are different rosins. This is mine. This is the one that I use, which is Parastro Gold. And this is a lovely rosin if you want to buy one. Can you see the difference in shade? So this is slightly suitable for slightly warmer climates. This one is slightly better for the northern hemisphere, shall we say, although this one is being used here all the time. As you can see, it's completely worn. Parastro Gold is a very soft rosin. It comes off the rosin very, very easily. You only need to swipe your bow twice with it, and you've got a lot of rosin, and it sounds really nice. So if you're looking for a good rosin, just buy 2 or 3 different ones and you will find which one you like the best. They're not very expensive. They're like 3 or 4 or 5 pounds. Other people might think, oh no, this is boring old rosin. I'll go for the sparkly one, the purple sparkly one. And if that's you, that's absolutely fine too. So let me see. There are a couple more questions. No need to bungee jump or jumping out of an airplane, just no need of it. No, that's absolutely what I think as well. Why would I even think about that? If you live, it might get easier, but violin will not kill you. No, that is also very, very, a very good comment. And that is one of the questions you can ask yourself, Enika. If you think about the third position and you think it is scary, what can possibly go wrong? What's the worst thing that can happen is that you don't get away from the first position. Well, you know that now, don't you? So Mr. Paul Muller is a member of the Violin Club. Thank you so much for subscribing. That is really good. It's lovely to see you here, and you can see that your name gets highlighted in these chats. Enika today says, today I both exactly the same shoulder rest as you have. It would be great to practice with it, and I bought high design rosin. It's gorgeous after very cheap rosins. Yes, now that is true. Let me hello, Serianne, nice to see you as well. I don't know how I pronounce your name. Serianne, Carrie-Anne. We're talking about shoulder rests, Carrie-Anne, so you know where we are. We had a chat about rosins And Enika is just saying, I've got the same shoulder rest as you have. Now, I'll tell you a little story about what happened. My old shoulder rest was completely worn out. I've had it for about 20 years. It was the same as this one. And I wanted to change something because after 40 years of violin playing, I get a little bit of arthritis in my shoulders. So I phoned my friend who's a good violin dealer, Caswell Strings, and I said to him, can you send me your most expensive shoulder rest, because I need a really good one, because I need something to sort my shoulders out. So send me your 5 most expensive shoulder rests. Now, it's eye-watering the amount of money that you can spend on shoulder rests. And I tried all 5 of them for about a week. And after a week, I decided to send all 5 of them back. And I got back to my old, I just bought a new Wolf Forte Secondo shoulder rest. The reason why is that it is super soft. It's really, you can dent it very easily. You can bend it. I don't know if you can see, but I've shaped it so that it fits precisely the shape of my collarbone. Not only that, you can tilt it. I'm doing a big promotion here of this shoulder rest. I've got no interest in the promo business, but there you go. It can also tilt, look like that. So it can swivel, it can go flatter, and it can go straighter. Can you see that? And that, for most people, is the most adaptable shoulder rest that you can find. Not only that, but you can raise the legs and lower the legs, but you can also, of course, put it this way around or put it more like that. And it's just so adjustable that for me, it's still the number one shoulder rest. Now, let me see, because things are happening on the chat. Oh, yes, this is what I was going to say. Enika is saying, and she bought high design rosin, which is also good rosin. I was speaking to a pupil of mine in the US the other day, and she's had some trouble with bows. And when she first started learning to play the violin, she bought the cheapest instrument and the cheapest bow that she could find. It turned out she makes very quick progress. So very swiftly, she started to upgrade both her instrument and her bows. And she commented on how much difference it makes to have better quality material. And especially, and I always say this to people in beginners courses, you will have heard me say it, hopefully, please, please, please do not buy the cheapest stuff that you can get, because in violin land, it's very much what you pay is what you get. So if you pay very little, you get rubbish stuff, and there is a lot of rubbish out there, I hate to say. If you go away from just up from the cheapest material, whether that is rosin, whether that is shoulder rest, whether it's bows, whether it's instruments, you'll get so much more pleasure out of playing. And you get, most of all, so much more progression in your playing when you play with material that is just slightly better. So you've done just the right thing, just bought a better rosin and your playing will transform. So really good. Carry on. I will remember that. Good. So Carrie Ann, welcome. And I noticed that you're from South Wales. So you might be the person nearest to me at the moment, although Angie is somewhere. Oh, there's someone else in Kent, isn't there? So South Coast and Wales, and we're in Norfolk right here. Anyone else got any questions? And then it fell quiet. Why don't you tell me, what was the last piece that you practiced? Did you practice today? What did you play? Oh, good question. What strings do you recommend is what Carrie Ann says. What strings do I recommend? Yeah. Where do I even start answering that question? I recommend that you play with a string which has a nylon core with silver winding. I've always played on tomastic dominant strings. I'll show you them. And these seems like one big advertisement. Here's my little box of spare strings that I keep in my violin case. All sizes are here for all the different violins that my students play on. Here's the little tiny ones. Perastro Pianito, these are for 16th and 32nd instruments, and these ones are for all other tiny ones, an 8th for an 8th violin. So for the tiny little children, they play on metal strings just to make them last a little bit longer. But everyone else in my practice plays on Firastro dominant strings. The reason for that is that they are, like I said, they have got a nylon core and they are wound with silver wire, which makes them very responsive. It's the silver wire that when you draw the bow on the strings, it gives you an instant sound. That is what you want, a string that easily responds. When you're learning, you want to make it easier for yourself. If you play on gut strings, when you first start to play, you'd have to have a pretty good technique to get a decent sound out of gut strings. So that is why we're using these. For years and years, when I was performing more, I used to play on Eudoxa Aricor strings, and they are just a little bit more mellow in sound. They respond a little bit better to when you have got a very, very good bow. But they are also more scratchy in sound. So for learners of any kind, I would say find a string that is responsive and that is long lasting, because you also don't want to be tuning forever and ever, which you do on gut strings and on the Aricor Eudoxa strings as well. And the other types of strings like the Yaga or other more fancy strings, we tend to use to mellow out certain aspects of your violin. So some violins have got a very even tone across the G, D, A, and E strings. Other instruments are just a little bit warmer on the lower side. So the G and D strings sound a bit warmer by comparison to the A and E strings, for instance. You can, depending on what you like in your music or depending on the genre of music that you play, you can sort of make the sound clearer on the higher strings by using particular strings like Yaga are very good for that sort of thing. But what we want to achieve as violin learners is to create an even tone across all four strings. So dominant strings, tomastic dominant strings are what I recommend. Okay. Linda is saying, good news about the third position course. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. I might do that because you're certainly not the only person just thinking, whoa, I need to go into the third position, you see. So we'll do that one day. Books say using a guide note when shifting, I find is very difficult and I'm not sure how to do it. Yes, that is very good that you've remembered that, because many people don't remember this, and it is absolutely vital. The golden rule in violin playing is that when you shift, you use the finger that you've last played in your old position. So let me give you an example. We're shifting from the first position to the third position. Okay, the rule is when you shift, you use the last finger played in the old position. So the last finger that you played in the first position as your first finger in the new position. So if I'm going to play, let's say I'm going to play from an F sharp here, first finger on the E string, and I'm going to, let's go to a B. There. That is my shift. 1 in first position to finger 2 in the third position. The golden rule says use the finger that you used last in your old position. That was my first finger. As your first finger in the new position. So I need to play the first finger first in the third position. So I'm going to go. see, first finger, and then I add my second finger. Okay, so that is the golden rule. That is your what's called the auxiliary note, the helper note, the guide note, as you stated. It's all the same thing. So you can play this. So I'm practicing my shift, and then eventually that becomes. See, my first finger is still on the string. And then I've got my shift there. So my helper note, my guide note is still on the string, but I don't actually hear it anymore after a while. So this and other things, now I'm going to plug my own course that I have yet to think through. This and other things is to come in the position changing course. I hope that answers your question, Linda. The whole experience, how do I assess my level of playing as a self-taught violinist? Yeah, that is a very, very good question. That makes me think for a moment. I would say, and this is controversial, I've had conversations with colleagues about this. When you're a self-taught violinist, what matters is the pleasure that you get from your playing and from your learning as well, I think. So if you can play the pieces that you want to play before you set out on your violin playing journey, I think that is mission accomplished, isn't it? You may know, and I can share this information with you, is that last year I was commissioned to write a book by the Hal Leonard Publishing Corporation, the largest music publisher in the world. And I've written my book now. It's done. It's back with them and they're editing it. And this is it's called DIY violin, do-it-yourself violin. And I was thinking, if people are self-taught violinists, what do they want to achieve? And I think the main thing they want to achieve is to be able to play the pieces that they want to play. So if you want to play a piece by Frank Sinatra, then that is your aim, isn't it? So if you achieve your aim, I think that is a satisfactory level of playing, isn't it? That is something different from when you are a self-taught violinist and you want to enroll in some sort of music college or conservatoire. I think that is near impossible to do because it's a certain style of playing that you need to be able to then aim for the big concertos. That is the ultimate aim of when you go to music college, isn't it? Or play in a professional orchestra or become a chamber music player. But as a self-taught violinist, I think your goal is very different from how I regard my beginner violinist. When children come to my lessons, I regard them as potential conservatoire goers, and they get taught in a way that leaves that possibility for them open if they want to do that when they go and leave school, you see. But I think for self-taught violinists, the whole your whole reference of what you want to achieve is different, isn't it? It might be that you're a self-taught violinist and you're forever unhappy with the sound that you produce, and then you've got to reassess where your goals are. Are you going to stay a self-taught violinist? And I am in awe of you guys to all be self-taught violinists or mostly self-taught violinists. So I don't know how you do it, and I think it is admirable how people who book one-off lessons with me, how well they listen to instructions and find out things about the third position, about the guide notes in third position playing. So I am very, very much surprised, pleasantly surprised very often by how well self-taught violinists reach their goals. But if you don't manage to find your aim of playing certain pieces that you want to play, obviously then that whole self-taught aspect will be a bit different, won't it? Do I have any exercises to warm up with and to work on tone? That is a very useful question as well. Do I have any exercises to warm up with and work on tone? Now, I think you are the person as well who regularly revisited old pieces, isn't it? When you want to work on tone, you want to play pieces that you already know so that you're not distracted by learning new notes. So your old repertoire would be totally suitable to work on your tone quality. Now, I tend to play quite a few scales because I like them as tone building exercises, but they're not the way scales are taught in most scale books. I tend to play scales playing each note 2 or 3 or 4 times over, or rather 2 or 4 times over, even numbers, and really see if you can get your tone to change on the second playing or on the third playing or on the fourth playing. So apologies again, I'm going to play again. So if I play the D major scale rather than playing, I'd play my D major scale rather like this. You see, and that way you can improve on your tone much more than when you play too fast. Now, your old repertoire, the old pieces that you already know, are totally suitable for tone building exercises as well, because you don't need to think about which finger goes where and how am I going to play it and where are the string crossings, you see. So I'm hoping that has answered your question. Paul Miller says, is they the first time? Do you mean, is this the first time we're doing the live classes? If that is what you mean, no, we've been doing a lot of live classes and you can find them all on the channel in the playlist live classes. So if you want to watch old ones back, it would be quite interesting to see how the old ones are. I haven't watched them back in a long time. Go on the playlist live classes and you can find them all there. Angie uses obligato strings, gives that warm tone on the G and D strings. This is what I was saying earlier. Yes. So sometimes you might have certain strings that bring out certain traits in your instrument that you particularly like, or fix any issues that you particularly don't like, you see. So in your case, you really love that warm sound on the G and D string. So good on you. Well done. Carrie Ann, might be a daft question. How often should I change the strings? No question is ever a daft question. It's actually a very good question because some strings can go out of tune. And then you need to change them as soon as possible, because if you play on a string that's out of tune, you will never be able to play your note in tune because the string varies too much. I tend to change my strings about once every year. But then I play all day, every day, so they get worn out quite a bit. But I have teenage boys that I teach who are very, very sweaty, and they change their strings every 6 weeks, 8 weeks maybe, because especially when you play on strings that are the nylon core with the silver winding, when you've got sweaty hands, the winding will come apart and you get all these little bits hanging off your strings here, and that's really irritating when you play. So you need to replace your strings more often. If you replace your strings, change them one by one, because a new string takes time to play in. So they initially sound a little bit rough and they stretch, of course, as well. So you need to tune more frequently. And that's much easier to retune only one string and then stay on there for about 2 weeks before you then replace another string. And it will gradually, a newly fitted string will sound quite harsh as well, because it just needs to get used to being stretched and being played, and then it mellows. So change your strings one by one as well. Now, how do you check if your strings are still in tune? And I think you might be able to see this. This is definitely one that I've done before in an earlier class. Let me see if that works. I'll just put something underneath my violin here. When you see a string, I'm holding it quite close to the camera. I'm going to use my A string. Take a look at how it vibrates. Oh, I'm not sure if you can see it. Can you see it goes out and straight back in? I'll show you. Can you see that? It's nice and even. It goes out straight in. Now this one has a longer ring. Can you see that? It goes out and it goes much more slowly in. Did I just call that the A string? Sorry, this is the D string. So this one has a shorter ring, which means it's older than the G string. What about my A string? Now this one is super short. So I should probably think about replacing my A string. It's not yet out of tune, but it's not ringing for a very long time. That's got a nice long ring, you see. I replaced this one recently. See? That's definitely good. Nice ring, and it goes down very slowly. Let me just try another string, simply to show you. Whoops. Let me see what this is like. Okay, this is not a fresh string at all. This is one of those violins that's up on my wall behind me on my videos. That's got a good long ring, that D string. Oh, now this is a good example of a string which is out of tune. Have a look at the vibration of this string. You can see go out and then go out and in and out and in. You can hear it as well. It goes boing like that. You see it much more clearly than you hear it. This needs replacing urgently if this violin was to be played regularly. It doesn't, so I'm just going to leave it. But that way you can tell. That way you can tell if your violin strings are out of tune. Okay, let me see. Hamid Singh. Oh, I haven't. This is your first comment, isn't it? Hello, welcome to this class. Learned a lot from your videos. Still a beginner. Thank you. Good to see you here, and long may it last. Tell us a little bit more about your violin playing. Tom Bell says, thank you. An interesting discussion about assessing your playing. Yes, I think that too. And I'm interested to hear, I can't remember your name, the whole experience. What a suitable name. I'd be interested to hear from you what your goal is in your violin playing. What would you like to achieve when you're learning to play the violin on your own? It's an interesting one. Carrie Ann says, I see what you mean about the ring of the string. Very good. What do you do still now? I would like to watch all live what you do still now. Oh, I'm trying to, this is what I'll do. Lots of people ask me that question actually. So video a bit more like an Instagram style or TikTok style thing. Show me what you do in your everyday life. Well, I teach the violin in the afternoons mainly, and in the mornings I mainly record videos. So that is what I do all day, 4 days a week I do. So as I was saying, I'll let you all know, of course, when my book will come out, but that book comes with 88 videos. So that will keep me off the streets for the next couple of weeks to record all the videos to go with the book. Make popular songs video tutorial. Avicii, Wake Me Up. That is actually already on my channel. So Epic, have a look at. Oh, I think it's called, if I remember rightly, because it's about a year ago that I did that song. I think there's a playlist that's called Songs You Know or something like that. So that is already on there. So have a look there. Right, guys, we're going to round up a bit today. If you're not already a member of Henriette's Violin Club, then please consider becoming one very soon. Final question here. To play this is the question of the whole experience. My main goal is, just like you said, to play the repertoire that I've always been fascinated by. Absolutely, that's what you want to do, isn't it? To play the songs that you want to know, like Epic. Epic, you want to play Avicii Wake Me Up. So there you go. Have fun playing the songs you know. So I wish you all good luck with your playing. Thank you for attending. And I'll look forward to seeing you very soon. Bye-bye, everyone.